So I will do a recap of where you are and what's happened a little bit before then. You had been in your neighborhood of Agrella called Rebello, celebrating as patron saint. And your neighbor, Minea, this poor flower woman daughter, ultimately dies and succumbs to poison. You know that she's carrying some sort of message, but neither Minea or Amalea can read. And obviously she was a messenger for someone. The message is kind of cryptic and perhaps concerning in some degree. And you found out that the only thing her mother knows is that she has two names, Tenid, which sounds like her roommate perhaps, and then her squeeze, Orador, that she lived in a cauldron. She had left house to live in a cauldron to make it on her own. What happens is that overnight, after trying to save Amalea, you all go back to your rooms in your tenement housing in the neighborhood of Rebello. Pike wakes up late evening and is ensnared by Lysella into a botched job against a prominent citizen, the master alchemist Aurea, a socialite beauty in her mid-30s. And he gets caught trying to rob her and ultimately has to walk back naked, which isn't something that he's unused to, apparently. Vulgar is sleeping in the back with the chickens, where he usually does, out in the communal kind of backyard square of the tenement buildings that surround their block. And he is attacked by ultimately what he determines is an assassin from his arch enemy. Daehniff and Vulgaris come to his aid, and the assassin is ultimately defeated and, oddly enough, disposed of in a somewhat toss her over the cliff into the water manner. They regroup really on Pike's return and ultimately decide they must rest for the night because it's dark out, and that's what they were trying to do to begin with. In the morning, Vulgaris pulls each of them to working a job. Job detail, a goblin job for day labor. And even though they show up and ultimately there's some dismay of the hiring firm on Sararo because they're going to do goblin work, and they end up mucking out a warehouse in the Cauldron that has been flooded with water and mud, and they need to clean it up. Vulgaris displays an adept level of shirking, which he dubiously calls supervising, while each of the other characters kind of make connections with these poor goblins, some old, some young, as they're mucking out this warehouse. Until a group attacks the warehouse. The group is Ambrians, and Daehniff probably knows, and the rest of the company may know, that these Ambrians have, or at least one of them have, stated a desire to clean up Agrella and Pile Island against the trash or darklings, specifically goblins and non-Ambrians or non-people of their cultural backgrounds. And battle and conflict and mayhem begins, and that's where we ended last session. Any questions or additions?
I don't think so.
No.
All right. So we're in combat.
Yes.
As you can tell, we had just started it. Vulgaris is high up, kind of in this 1.5 story loft that's on either side of this warehouse, while Pike, Daehniff, and Vulgar are in the muck. The goblins are throwing mud behind Vulgar and are murmuring or even trying to sing his song that he was humming while he was mucking out the warehouse with them. And the Ambrians are laid out as they are. One has crawled up to the top. One is just inside, but Daehniff has come from the outside because he was outside the warehouse when combat started. And the rest of them have kind of rushed Pike, Vulgar, and the goblins. One of them has gotten away because Vulgaris lit him up on fire with brimstone cascade, and he wasn't of the conviction to die in the warehouse, and he promptly escaped past Daehniff out the main doors. So we're in round 2 at the top of the order. Vulgaris, you're in that loft section. You can see this Ambrian that's climbed up the teetering ladder well. You have another shirker up here, but the goblins who are shirking, they're more like novice shirkers than you, and they're kind of hiding behind barrels or this big crate right here. There's a big crate, and you can see arrayed beneath you the conflict. One of the Ambrians is on the ground, and the rest are upright. Two of them bracket Pike. One of them's fighting in the back with Daehniff. What does Vulgaris do?
So, these are the fellow goblins, correct?
Yeah, those are the fellow goblins. Okay. You can see this. You probably can't see this one. You just know he's there because he probably peeked over the box and gave you the thumbs up in the beginning, like, hey, thanks. We're shirking together. And then you can kind of see this one on the other side. But you don't have this one on your side is pretty hidden from you behind that big box. The rest you have pretty open view.
Yeah, I'm going to target the closest threat. Okay.
The one up on top with you or one down next to?
Right. Oh, Jesus.
All right. What does that look like, Vulgaris?
That's incorrect corruption.
Yeah, no, I think.
He kind of flicks his arm down almost from a greater than 90-degree angle. And almost as if he's underhand throwing it at this guy as it explodes in his... Which did he take two? Probably hit him,
Yeah.
Maybe in the gut. Not a ricochet shot, sort of.
Glance off him. Maybe the brimstone cascade just was starting to come in, but at such close range that it hadn't had full time to blossom, and still kind of compact when he hits him, doesn't flow out and just kind of ricochets off him.
And I backpedal a little bit.
Okay.
And that is my turn.
All right. So Vulgaris throws Brimstone Cascade. How much corruption do you have at the moment?
So that should only be one because I have it under Strong Gift.
Okay. So you should...
So I have...
You should drop it down to 3?
3, right, instead of 6.
Right. Yeah, okay. Not that you have a ways to go anyways, but...
Yeah.
All right. Vulgaris is up on top. Pike, Daehniff, and Thalgar, you're fighting in the bottom with the goblins and against these Ambrians. They're hurling insults at you, and especially Daehniff and Pike. Thalgar is a barbarian, so even though he's a monk, he obviously has different bone structure, and so the insults they hurl at Thalgar are somewhat different. He's assumed to be a darkling, a thing of the forest, a barbarian, that kind of connotation. Whereas Pike and Daehniff, they're extolling your weak character, essentially. Ambrians, fighting against Ambrians. Why are you in here mucking out like a goblins, doing goblin work? Daehniff, you're at the back. You've come in and kind of engaged this Ambrian near you at the back. What does Daehniff do?
Well, I'm going to look at the goblin that is near Vulgaris and just say, whatever the goblin's name is, I'll say, when the path is free, toss me my spear, please. And I'm just going to hack at the guy next to me.
Okay. So you're asking one of the goblins to make a break for your spear, which is, probably over here somewhere.
Oh, really? I told you I put it in the rafters so it wouldn't get, mucked about.
Oh, up top.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think over here where the stairwell is.
Okay, well.
Okay.
Regardless, I'm going to hack at this guy with a sword and hope that at some point I can get around to getting around.
All right. So you attack this Ambrian with a sword whose grimaces and throws you a curse. Be gone, Templar.
I do not
stand up for these goblins.
I do not like your attitude. I'm going to shift it.
Now, do you maintain position, Daehniff?
Yeah. I don't want any of these guys leaving because, they might go get reinforcements and, I don't want that. If these people are going to prey on the weak, they're going to have to be removed from society. Meanwhile, Uncle Andre is, because his quickness is a little bit higher than mine, so he would move around the same time. So he's going to move a little bit closer. Again,
he's inside the walls.
He's inside the walls. He moves a little bit, then peeks out of the wall to just see where everything is. Because he doesn't want to get too far away, but he also knows that Daehniff will ask him to heal people if things get hairy. So that's what he does.
Okay. The topside goblins join the fray with the bottom. The goblins yell out to Thalgar, "Thalgar, don't let him kill us!" And they decide that, all they have is muck and barrels, but the one on top grabs a barrel, I think, and moves over here, past, jumps over this little gap right here past Vulgaris and has this small little barrel in his hand and looks over and looks down at Pike and the Ambrians and goes, and throws it down on him. So let's see if he can hit. If he does miss, he'll roll against Pike. I'm going to just roll a accurate test.
Oh dear.
Versus their quick, which is their. See if he hits him.
Oh, phew.
Well, all right. So he does hit him. He has three armor. I'm gonna roll a 1d6 for damage as this barrel comes crashing down on top of the head of the Ambrian behind Pike, between Pike and Thalgar. Oh, all right. Pike, you're standing there, and all of a sudden this barrel hits the top of this man's head and crashes over him. He almost buckles to his knees, just barely. It almost knocked him to his knees. He's kind of reeled, almost off his feet as the barrel hits it, and you hear this goblin up above you, looking over the edge, make a big whoop. And he looks at you with this huge smile on his face. He's wearing kind of rags and ripped clothing, and the other ones throw. I think they're gonna move over here, and they're going to throw at the one that's wielding a sword against her compatriot. So they're going to try to just throw mud and blind that guy. The first one misses, and Thalgar, he's close to you, and you hear him like curse in Goblin. I don't know if Thalgar knows Goblin enough to know Goblin curses. And the other one throws mud at him too, and he misses. And the one that's next to him decides that he looks back and he looks at Thalgar, and he's standing there all by himself. He's just got like ripped pants, but nothing on his shirt. He's got mud all over him. He's got, muddy hands, but there's not a lot for him to do. And he yells out to Thalgar, "Thalgar, what should I do? Have me trapped, Mr. Hitachi."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to write something, and I kind of zoned out a little bit. But
zoned out.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
The one goblin who's.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't stay for the whole session today because my mother is coming with a late train. We have a party for the youngest one this weekend, so family is coming. But okay, I'm here now. Sorry about that.
So the one goblin who's kind of trapped by this Ambrian who's trying to cut him down, he's standing there with just muddy hands.
Is this one?
Yeah, he kind of yells at you, "Thalgar, what should I do?"
Kick him in the nuts.
He looks at you dubiously down at his feet and up at the Ambrian who's, twice as tall, and he goes, "All right, that's what I do." And
with all your force,
he gets encouragement from the other goblins behind him. They yell out his name. "You can do it, you can do it." And he tries to kick the man in the nuts. He doesn't expect it's going to work, but he's given his all. Ooh. I think he'll roll a quick test to see if he slips in the mud as he attempts to kick. He tries to lift his leg just a little bit too high, and you're standing in this muckiness. Luckily, he almost slips. You see his legs go wide, and then he snaps them back together and, skates a little bit on the mud underneath him, but he misses altogether. Thalgar, you got one man who's prone in front of you, and these other two on this side and a goblin who's in danger. What does Thalgar do?
I guess I will still try and keep them at range.
Huh? So you're going to just wait. Oh, you're going to attack one of them with staff fighting?
Yeah, I don't remember from last time exactly what skills we're doing.
Yeah, you have staff fighting at novice. And
yeah, that is only novice. So that gives me a bonus +2 in defense, I guess, if I have the rune staff.
Yeah, so you have master level polearm.
Yeah.
And
the first one is okay.
There's one that's prone, but there's one that's within range right here, I guess. I think you still have to move. I think you still have to move one space.
Yeah.
Just
you have to be in melee.
Yeah. So if you move one space and you hit this man right here, he can't attack you with melee.
Yeah, but do I still get the free attack?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't moved in. Yeah.
No, it's the adept thing. Lets you do the free attack if you move into their space.
Yeah, so I move into his space,
Right.
I get a free attack, then I get my attack, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move in here beside the guy that's prone and knock my polearm in his head.
Okay. The one that's prone or the one that's south of you?
I think I'm gonna do it.
both.
Yeah, you get the attack. It's a free attack on anyone that
Is in range.
Enters the range.
Yeah, so free attack against all enemies that come into range of melee combat. Everyone, yeah.
Right, right. So you would get,
engage or enemy who engage. So yeah.
you get a advantage at the one who's prone, and then a regular attack, free attack against the one that's south, right?
Yeah. So the one that's prone first, then.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I slipped a little bit on the muck going in for my hit. Yeah.
That's not included the advantage damage of another d4.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Roll a d4 and I'll just add it. so you whack this one that's down.
Don't worry, Thalgar. It adds up.
Yeah, and it's been my step around in some cool moves, getting in for the attack on the other one there.
Yeah, you slide a little bit, and the goblin says, "I told you it's slippery, but you did better than I did." Wait, and make your free attack to the one to the south.
Nice.
Ooh.
Oh, that's better.
Wow. And I guess you got a full attack.
Oh yeah.
What happens, Thalgar?
Yeah, I mean, I slip a little bit trying to hit that the prone one. Maybe I just hit him in the wrist or something like that, so I can hear a little "Ugh!" And I just spin my staff around with some cool moves just for show. Yeah, I managed to get him off his feet and swing it back up and just like crack his skull.
All right. Let me see what they do. Okay. So what happens mainly is you hear this shout, Thalgar, Daehniff, Vulgaris, Pike, and their voices kind of ring out that they're going to, this is too much. Like you guys are, there's one that's already dead. They didn't expect that you would be there. And you hear them yell out, "Afeto will get you. We will be back. We will let Afeto know." And they bolt, really. Most of them bolt. The only one who doesn't bolt is this one who's right on top of this goblin. He makes a last-ditch swing at this goblin who tried to kick him in the nuts. And wow, I think they got he did some terrible damage, didn't he? 6. Why did they only give him 1 damage?
We couldn't see that.
Oh. Yeah, he
Just so you
attacked
know.
he attacked the goblin, but he hit them, but only gave him 1 damage, even though he rolled a 6. Maybe he didn't. He must have rolled a 3. You just see him, Thalgar, you see him just swipe out at the goblin, just barely nick him. The goblin skates away a little bit, and the sword kind of just catches him just a little bit. You hear him sort of scream out and look down and think he's about to die, and then he starts laughing. "It's just a scratch. It's just a scratch, Thalgar. Don't worry." And the Ambrians bolt. So they're all going to run for it, really. Make double moves out through the door.
On their turn,
I think all of them can make it out, except for this one on the top. Well, he may make it
or
out.
the
He
one
may jump.
prone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one prone. I'm going to see if he can roll a quick test for him since it's their turn.
And there's
Let's
attacks
see.
of opportunity in this game, right?
Right. So he uses his move action and can stand, and maybe he's the one who yells, "Flee!" Yeah.
Is this happening on their turn or on?
Yeah, that's on their turn. Oh, you're first. Pike, my fault.
He goes before they do.
Right. All right, Pike. I forgot you in this scheme of things. You know they're going to run, though.
Okay.
They probably yell at you. Lay down your arms. We're leaving. No one needs to die.
Yeah, I was going for more hitting and stabbing, but I was going to do an acrobatics check to. Okay. Well, one of them gets a free attack at me if he wants it.
Oh, you're moving that way.
Yeah.
I think if you're moving away from him and they're yelling out that they're leaving and fleeing, I don't think he's going to take a pot shot at you. You know, a opportunistic swipe, because they've already gave their hands. The only reason they attacked the goblin was because they're not Ambrians.
Okay. That was the free attack stepping into his reach. This is me stabbing the other one.
Well, maybe they will take that attack then. He's going to take that attack. He's going to take that attack because you stabbed him. He's going to let you go, but I think he's going to take that free attack. At least the one of them is. The one on the far side isn't. He's turning to go, but this one, I think, is someone's taking a free attack against you because your intent becomes obvious. So I will give him one.
I mean, he was the only one that could have taken one, but yeah.
Right. I will give one free attack for your failed. He misses. So what does that look like, Pike? Backstabbing. As that one kind of gets to a stand, he's about ready to turn and run next to Thalgar.
I'm assuming like he's angled up, clutching his limp wrist after Thalgar just smacked it with his stick, and then gets like almost eviscerated with the pike cutting through his bowel. And it's just like, oh, this is not a good dirty warehouse to have open wounds in.
He goes down in a massive muck bowel and probably mumbled screams, Pike. The others break.
I shall let them escape as I go put my dog to bed.
Okay.
You're right back.
So, Daehniff, this one is going to bolt around you. You get a free attack on him as he's bolting.
He annoys me, so we're going to take it. Oh.
All right, so he disappears out the door. The other two are going to run right past you. Obviously, I believe you get free attacks on them.
Yep.
Well, you get free attacks on all three of them, really. As they scramble towards the door, the goblin kind of backs up, puts up his muddy hands. He's going to let them go. All right. Ooh, okay. They run out the door. This one jumps down. He thinks, I just got to jump down. And he botches it, kind of lands in the mud, and realizes he can't get out the door completely. So he just kind of tucks himself underneath the scaffold right here, tries to get around the corner, but he's kind of underneath that ledge, out of view of Vulgaris, who's hit him twice with brimstone cascade, right? He's smoldering as it is. The other three get away. He looks at Daehniff and he puts up his hand with his sword and says, Enough. I surrender. Good Templar, Ambrian. No harm is done. Two are dead. Let me go and you won't see my face again.
Gene, is this a crate?
Yeah, like a box, table.
Okay. I want to jump down on top of it.
Okay. Roll
I
a
have
quick
to-
test.
Yep. I have to do
Right.
my burden. And
That's
I just
exactly
fire
that.
away before he finishes that sentence with brimstone cascade.
All right. I'd let you do that with a 1. You land on that, and all the goblins kind of like look up at you like, wow.
Oh,
Ooh.
shit.
Actually, that's their armor roll, right?
If
How
they
are you
roll a
hitting?
D6, the test failed. If they roll a D12, the
Right.
test succeeded.
Right. So he did get hit, but it's not as effective.
Correct.
Say that again. Why did a dice roll of 20 make it? Oh,
Because with Brimstone Cascade, when you fail your test roll, you still do a D6 of damage.
okay.
Which eventually, if he gets the chain effect for Brimstone Cascade, you have to basically pay attention to which die the damage type is. Because that'll tell you whether you can keep going or not.
Yeah, it looks like it automatic calculated. So
Yeah, it did.
Vulgaris, you acrobatically jump on this crate. It bows a little bit under your weight, but you're a goblin. You don't weigh that much. The other goblins, it's like oohs and ahs. They see you kind of fly down from the top and land, and then brimstone cascade, and their eyes get about this big, and are looking at you slightly different because they didn't necessarily like you because you're trying to make them do your work. But obviously they see the value of a foreman right now, one who could take charge. Daehniff, what do you and Uncle Andre, the other Ambrian, he's got a sword in his hand and gets hit sideways a little bit, and he looks back at Vulgaris and he looks back at you and says, "Come now, Ambrian, let me free of this place."
I say, loudly enough that everybody in the room should hear it, lower your weapon, and you shall live to see tomorrow after you answer some questions.
He looks at you and he goes, "Right, you promised then, on
I
Prios'
do.
name." And he
If
puts
anyone
down his sword.
if anyone chooses to attack you after I've given you my bond, I will deal with them quite severely. But you
Right.
have my vow.
He lays his sword up against the wall and goes on his knees and puts his hands on top of his head, looks at you expectantly. He's burning, obviously. You can smell the smell of burnt skin, and part of his hair is burnt and got little flecks and burns on his eyes, around his face, after Vulgaris has hit him now 3 times in a minor fashion, relatively. So we're essentially at a combat. You hear the goblins kind of cheer a little bit. You have 2 dead Ambrians kind of on the floor, and one who's alive who kind of looks back at them and then tries not to look at them. Obviously, this went awry. What does the party do?
I look at the guy and say, "Okay, talk."
I pick up his sword,
Okay.
and I'm leaning on his sword as I'm listening.
Yeah, sword's pretty tall for a goblin, but you probably could lean on it a little bit, up to your shoulder level. They're wearing kind of scale mail. The other ones are roughly the same. They had a sword, scale mail. He looks at you and goes, "Well, what do you want to know?"
I want to know who the name is that your one friend said would get us.
Well,
Yeah, really, just who paid you to try and make very poor life decisions?
he looks at Pike and kind of sneers. "Pay? We didn't get paid."
Like, these are true believers.
Oh, you Muppets got killed for nothing? Oh, that
Stupider than I thought they were.
We didn't expect you to be here.
Yes, which brings me to my second question. First, answer the first one, please.
Well,
that means you came into this warehouse for free.
They
You
kinda
see
look
the
at you and
state
go-
of it?
he looks at you and goes, "It was just supposed to be goblins. A Fedo, it was his plan. He's in charge."
That's not the name of the guy who hired everybody, is it? Or is it?
He looks at you and goes, "You keep using the word hire."
No.
no.
That was a player question, Gene.
The person who
no.
hired the goblins.
He wasn't
No,
the guy
it's-
who hired the goblins.
No, the man who hired the goblins is Saw Aro. I
Okay.
put them in chat. So
So I look at him and say, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah, would someone who's vaguely familiar with the Agrellan criminal underworld know who Othello is?
a Fedo.
Othello.
You could roll cunning, Pike. It's unlikely.
Yes, I am a particularly cunning person. Oh, I just know who they are.
Pike, you probably know Fedo as a man who rails against non-Ambrians, specifically goblins, maybe barbarians to a lesser fashion. Maybe you were in a pub or a drinking house or an outside cafe or somewhere and heard him, blathering on about needing to clean up.
Oh, short guy carries that soapbox around with him so that he can get kind of eye level and yell at people about the fact that he doesn't have a real job.
Right.
And how it's the goblins' fault.
He often says goblins are taking jobs from well-meaning and willing Ambrians, and they should be cleaned out, especially at Pile Island, which is where they've lived for quite some time.
From the United States of Agrella.
Tell this guy, we'll take your armor now.
He kind of looks at you and goes, well, sure, I guess. He looks over at Daehniff. Let him take my armor?
I mean, you let him take it off, or they trying to eat you out of it.
He looks at you and says, I'll take it off.
How did you know that there were going to be goblins here to kill?
He looks at you and goes, he shrugs, he goes, goblin work. What else are they going to do?
Yes, but how did you know? I was outside when you guys approached. You didn't just search around for a warehouse. You went to this one very directly and deliberately. How did you know there'd be goblins here today?
He looked at you and he says, Fedo just says this is where they would be working.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to let you go. If my friend wants your armor, he gets your armor. One of my spies is going to trail you, and if he sees you meeting with any of the idiots that were here today, our arrangement is over. You are no longer protected till tomorrow. Do you understand that?
He shakes his head vigorously. Right,
we
no meeting.
After today, you are no longer under protection. I will not be your guardian. I will endeavor to protect other, innocent people by removing you.
He says, sounds reasonable. You are letting me live. Can I go now? He kind of strips off his armor. So he strips off his armor and looks over at the two dead and seems somewhat mollified, upset, and sneaks out gingerly past Daehniff and Vulgaris.
Did you read my note?
Where did you send it?
In Foundry chat.
In Foundry chat? Okay, let me pull it up. No, I didn't read your note. What did you do?
He's going for a nut job. Was the Daehniff's back's turned?
So it's not in. It's in regular chat.
Yeah.
Foundry chat. My fault. No, sure you could do that. Daehniff is the one he's going to have to deal with you. So make that attack, Vulgaris, if you're going to attack him as he goes.
Now that's accurate, right?
Right. Let me dummy out his scale mail so he's not wearing that anymore.
Well, I'm not going to hit probably anyway, so
it doesn't matter. He has no armor.
Yeah.
I will bring out. Here you go. Oh, you missed.
Oh wow!
By a lot. By a lot.
You missed by all the numbers.
So Daehniff, this Ambrian, gives his armor, kind of looks at you and turns around and starts walking out, and Vulgaris takes this opportune moment to try to strike at his back. He misses him. The swing is wide. I don't think the Ambrian even recognizes it's happening because he's moving quickly out of the door, kind of sidestepping around Daehniff. What does Daehniff do as Vulgaris breaks it?
And I'm probably not used to the weight of the sword, so I probably stumble.
I give Vulgaris a little bit of a shove so that the guy can get away, and I say, "Run, fool, run!" Okay.
He skips out the door, just runs, turns left around the corner and just keeps going, in his clothes.
I run after him. And don't come back.
I feel bad for punching Vulgaris.
I put their sword in scale mail. So each of them have a sword. So you get 3 swords and 3 scale mail, because the other ones are kind of.
That's a lot of money for us.
Right.
I think Talgar has an agenda here. He sees an opportunity.
Oh, what is that, Talgar?
Because Talgar has been traveling for a long time trying to get recruits for the monk, and but he has he's really bad at talking to people, but so he hasn't got any yet. So maybe I could try and convince one of these goblins to be my little sidekick and apprentice.
Yeah, they all kind of like crowd around you, you know?
Yeah, and I give them a long speech about the monks being the last protecting.
Gene, maybe you should let him do persuasive against each of them.
Right, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Persuasive
Last
against.
ample and tell them about the monk's life and how to get a staff.
Make us persuasion at I'd even give you persuasion at favor against their cunning.
Loot.
One at a time.
Cunning is better because they're not as cunning. Yeah, one at a time. I'm going to see how many you.
Just the 3 that he was instructing.
Right. The 3 that were throwing mud for you.
Right.
Let's start this one. Cunning against what? Or just
your persuasion against
their cunning. Yeah.
At favor.
So start with top one.
He kind of looks at you and he's nodding his head. He's looking at the others like, just keep nodding. Yeah.
He's like,
Ambrians talking. He saved our life, but that's what us goblins do in this situation. We just nod and, ooh,
there you go.
The other one kind of gives him an elbow like, yeah, I want to be a monk. I do. And the other one rolls his eyes like, oh my goodness.
Hey, Gene.
Yeah.
Did you add their gear to the Thursday loot?
I did. I only added it once, so I added one scale mail.
That's okay. I'll add the other 3 or other 2.
Yeah.
Did you add Thaler, or was that just left over from last time we used this sheet?
Let me look at the sheet. Oh, I'd leave that Thaler. Perhaps that's how much you find on these guys.
Okay.
That makes sense. So Thalgar, right? Thalgar, the first one kind of like nods his head, and he maybe he's a little bit smarter. He's the one that was truly standing behind you, like, okay, this is the best position to be. The other ones like ran up and start throwing mud, and they look at you like, right, we look at each other, we can be monks. And the other one, you see like out of the side, you see him roll his eyes like, oh, here we go again. And he's kind of standing there, and he's looking at his other compatriots thinking, oh no, this is terrible. And he tries to convince them, Olfat, Ortulf, this isn't a good idea. Goblins were never meant to be monks. And they look at him and they just give him a hand. Laura took, we're gonna be, he's gonna teach us to be monks, and we won't have to muck out anything. He turns his head, he looks at you, Thalgar, shakes his head. But you've acquired 2 acolytes.
All right.
Friends, sadly, we're going to have to muck a little bit more today because we got to get rid of these bodies.
So what is the plan?
How big are the sacks that we've been mucking the mud?
Let's go find some stones.
They're about half a body width. You'd have to use like 2 of them, to cover a whole body.
Okay, so we're going to start chopping. Use one of the swords to chop their limbs and put that in bags with mud. Look, if we don't get rid of these guys
make sure the blood mixes with the freaking mud.
Water. If we don't get rid of these discreetly, when the guards come, they're not going to trust the word of goblins. We're going to get, they're going to fuck with us, and that will make it harder to protect people. So, sorry. The evidence says to go. They're already dead. It's not like they can have anything worse happen.
The most morbid well, maybe not, but pretty close is the Templar who...
I'm pragmatic. I'm not morbid. I look at everybody and say, if somebody has a better idea, feel free to let me know, but,
So
we have to ditch these bodies before anybody gets called to the scene.
So, Gene, maybe play fate and see if we get it done in time before anybody shows up.
Sure, I could do that. It's reasonable.
Easiest thing for us to do. This part, Vulgaris will participate.
Okay. The barbarians are looking at you. I mean, the goblins are looking at you is this what we're supposed to do, Thalgar? Should we help?
Yeah, you should help.
Get over
great
here,
master.
goblins.
All right.
Wait a minute.
You're...
He's no teacher.
They look at you sternly.
Hey, shut
At
up.
least two of them do.
Shut up and start dismembering.
So you probably are partway through dismembering, and Symbaroum comes in, and you hear him come in, and then you hear this catch of breath. What by Prio's name happened here? What are you doing? He's looking at
Your
you
warehouse
chopping apart.
is just really dirty.
Yes.
The shit quite literally walks into this place.
What do you mean? What are you doing, Templar? Ambrians, what have you done here?
Minimizing the self-defense questions that you will have to answer when the guard arrive.
Oh, shit.
Just clean things
Goblins. Goblins, let's go. We must leave. You must leave. I'm leaving.
I'm telling the goblins when the work is done, we are going to find some fine wood and make some staffs for them.
Okay.
Almost like a
Sorrow
boys go.
sees what you're doing. He wants nothing to do with it. He seems taken aback, and he yells at the goblins that they need to leave because this will be nothing but trouble for them. Does the party do anything as Sorrow plans to leave them to their grisly business?
I just say to him, you want to be careful in the future. Apparently these idiots were attacking goblins. They're very likely not going to care about the safety of your premises in their attacks. I guess next time they just close the door and burn it down.
Sorrow kind of looks at you and he looks at you and goes, I make my business this. I collect the day laborers for work. How am I supposed to make a living?
Stop hiring goblins, maybe?
I'll tell him the name of the guy that we were told is responsible for this and say, I will keep an eye out on goblins when I have the chance. But sadly, I really don't know, how to fix this problem, except rather directly.
Yeah, these guys came specifically hunting your goblins. Maybe just be a bit quieter about which sites you're working at that day.
Right. That's a good idea. I will procure my goblin workers more quietly. That probably will work.
I'll tell him where to find me and say, if at any given day you're worried about something, send word, and if I'm available, I'll, take a look and, try to protect your interests.
Okay. He looks at the goblins and goes, come on, my goblins, let's go. He gives each of you your coin that he... Don't let anyone know. $1.
I want my $2.
$2.
I don't know if any of you ever watched the movie Better Off Dead.
Have not seen it, but yeah, we do need to get paid before he runs off.
Well, you better hurry up. If the guard comes, I wasn't here, and
I don't know.
All of the goblins leave except for Thalgar's two newly acquired initiates, whose name are Ulfat and Ortuf. I put their names in the...
Yeah, I keep one thaler of the payment myself, and I share the other one with the two goblins. And this is the first lesson. We share what we got.
Master
I thoroughly
gives coin.
clean my sword
Master
blade.
gives coin. So you dispose of the... You before the guard arrives, the goblins, you, Thalgar, Pike, Daehniff, Vulgaris, you dispose of them. Daehniff probably runs the sacks down and weighs them down and, out to the water's edge. And as you're coming back, probably outside the warehouse is when you see this group of two guards round the corner. The goblins, Ulfat and Ortuf, look at Thalgar and says, time to run, I think. Time to run. Right, Master? What does the company do is these guards kind of round the corner. They're maybe 2 buildings away, but they see you and you can kind of hear them yell out, Hold there, men.
To the guards.
Okay, Daehniff. We've heard trouble is going on here. We need to check out the warehouse. Has there been trouble?
We were told rabble rousers, but we chased them off.
Oh.
Yeah, the place is full of
rats. Plenty of rats.
Oh, yeah, half the floor's covered in shit.
And I think the rats
were helping oversee some goblins scoop it up. bunch of, let's just call them not the most educated members of society, came along to put a dampener on everyone's day, and frankly, we couldn't tolerate that.
So you're
the
protecting
rats
Joy.
are diseased too, so you definitely don't want to go in there.
Well, what's their casualties?
Bloody
I
lips,
mean,
bruises,
Yeah.
and then they fled.
some thoroughly wounded pride. I think one of them had some floor muck thrown at his face. Like,
The guards look around them and look at Thalgar and the goblins. Then they look back at Daehniff. They kind of look at Vulgaris, but, someone needs to roll persuasion. You made some good arguments, against joy and happiness. So I'd give you advantage to roll persuasion. They let it go because they are in the Cauldron. So this is a pretty rough area. And there's only 2 of them. And there's 6 of you. You look muddy and you look terrible, but it sounds like a reasonable story. Who'd like to
I would
roll
like to point out,
persuasion?
Gene, I never said no one died. I said there were some bloody lips and some bruising, all of which is
Right.
true, and then they fled. Again, true.
Right.
I did not tell them how many did make it out alive.
You didn't answer the question directly, but it doesn't seem to have phased them. Seems to be.
No,
they
I'm
think
just
you
simply
answered
pointing
it.
out in terms of my persuasive roll. I'm assuming I have the best persuasive. Or does somebody have a better one?
mine is minorly below average.
Right.
Yeah, you've got the best.
Okay.
Easily.
Oh, okay. They kind of shake their head at Daehniff and look him up and down because, he's a big Ambrian, obviously a Templar or a man of Prios of some nature. You don't have any armor, Daehniff?
I put it in the rafters.
Oh, you put it in the rafters. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't want to have to clean it up in the muck.
Yeah, I think you would have put it back on by now. Okay. And so they look at you and they shake your head and goes, well, what are your names then, in case we have to follow up?
I'm Daehniff.
Daehniff. And do you reside where?
I'll tell him.
Okay. Pike, you tell him your name?
I'm like wincing as Daehniff says the truth. It's just like, I can't even give a different address because I'm his neighbor. Like, a fake name would be too obvious.
Right. Thalgar, they look at you. I assume Thalgar gives his name. They kind of, their eyes pass over Vulgaris and the other 2 goblins, like, their names are not important.
Yeah, part of the reason I didn't lie is because I didn't think the rest of you could do it very well. So, no need to give you
So
the precedent.
it's probably early or, mid-afternoon, late afternoon after all this transpires. Obviously, the warehouse wasn't cleaned out as much as possible. You dispose of the bodies of the Ambrians who attacked the goblins and somehow skirt the guards of the area. There's not that many in the Cauldron, though. Cauldron is kind of rough. You know that Amalea had lived here, and you have a couple of names. But what would you do now in the afternoon in the Cauldron? Or what's the party's plan after this all transpires?
I'm gonna get this mud and muck off me.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Start by cleaning up.
Okay.
Vulgaris kind of looks at himself, who's barely dirty.
We've been,
Right.
yeah.
Just your feet.
I'm gonna make sure to pat Vulgaris on the head with be like, that was some good
Sure.
work shirking that up there. Oh, you don't have any hair to wipe my hand on. I guess I'll go wash it in the river.
Okay. So you kind of clean up, maybe down at the water's edge. The goblins, follow Thalgar's, whatever Thalgar does. They kind of look at him like, washing? Do we wash? Is that necessary? Is that absolutely necessary, Master? And the rest of you kind of clean up down at the water's edge, probably a little ways away from where you dump the bodies out in deeper water. What's the plan for the rest of the day?
Did you guys want to inquire about the
What time of day?
the
is it?
hiring person?
It's late afternoon.
We know the Flower Lady's daughter's address. Given that we
Well,
are,
you know that she lived here. You don't necessarily know where. You just have
we don't know where.
name. You have the name of her roommate, probably, which is Tenid, and perhaps her boyfriend, you think. but you don't necessarily know where she lived.
Well, we could get some afternoon repast and see if anyone knows this Tenid fella.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to kind of find a food stall or someplace to eat in the Cauldron and maybe ask some questions?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we have to do.
All right.
Kind of investigate.
Okay. So each of you can roll a cunning check as you, I'm assuming, are kind of asking questions around, right?
Yep.
Okay. As you're in the Cauldron itself where Amalea had lived, or that's where her mother said she would be. You know this Tenid person who was her probably roommate of some nature. And just make a persuasion test at -2. Anyone privileged?
I thought you wanted cunning.
Cunning, right? My fault. Anyone have the privileged boon?
Yes.
No one. You do? Ike does?
Privileged.
Oh, you're privileged. You make it at this favor.
Well, my result margin is now a -13.
Right.
No, disfavor. That means 2 dice take the worst.
Two dice take the worst. How come Pike is privileged? Is it just his background of family?
Yeah. Out of character, I needed a way to have some decent starting equipment. So the 50 thaler buff.
So his family was more like high-grade merchant. You know, they had a legitimate business, but they were also organized crime of some nature.
They got taken out because they were being successful. Like, pre-existing larger criminal entities did not appreciate a successful upstart coming in and turning a profit. So, yeah, Pike.
Okay. So
again,
roll those.
Pike isn't poor. He is just consistently broke.
All right, Pike, roll yours. Daehniff.
Oh, no, I've
Did
already
you roll
rolled a nat 20.
Oh, yeah. You rolled a nat 20. That is terrible. Pike, roll vigilant. So, Daehniff, you are walking probably through the Cauldron, and maybe you found a meager stall to eat at. There's lots of kind of in the square right before the bridge that leads over to Pine Island. There's this kind of open square. You know, it's obviously got this kind of bigger area there. And there's a flea market here where lots of people have stalls. It's like this kind of sprawling place among these ruins of old buildings that have been reclaimed by the marshland of the Cauldron. And so there's multiple tents, and some of them are colored, some of them are terrible, and you probably go there to find street eats. And you're walking through Daehniff, and you see this kind of gray-haired, one-legged veteran who's hobbling around on his crutch and looks like he's mumbling to himself, and he's talking about, asking for shillings. I know, Cauldron, sir, you don't look like you're from Cauldron. I can tell you whatever you need, where you need to go, what you need to find. You're looking for someone specific. And he kind of rails off, asking you for 2 shillings to tell you what you need to know. You give him 2 shillings?
I give him 1 shilling, and then I hold out the other and say, I'm looking for some people. Perhaps you can help me.
Right. What's their names? Good sir.
I give him the names.
Ah, yes. I know Orador. Everyone knows Orador. He's usually found in that fancy Leonio's workshop who makes sculptures for the rich and famous. Not for the likes of us. Well, definitely not for the likes of me, but he looks you up and down. I don't think you can afford it either. Although you're a good-looking man and that's a good kit, but, well, we're commoners, really. More common than you are. And he kind of looks at the other thing. But yeah, right. Orador, right. He's Barado's son, and he works as an apprentice at Meliano's sculpture shop. Meliano's sculpture shop is on Pine Island, which is number 20 on the map.
I'll ask him for directions to that shop if he knows them.
You know where it is.
Okay, well then I won't ask him that.
yeah, we walked the opposite direction to find out where this person works.
Right. So
we'll have to go past our house to get there again.
now, Orador he's from the Cauldron. It sounds like his father does some sort of business in the Cauldron. His name is Barado, and Orador just works as an apprentice for Meliano, who's known to be this hot-tempered artisan who makes sculptures for the rich, really. He has a sculpture garden, but no one can really afford it there. Thalgar, you're going through the marketplace and you see a barbarian who's, trying to sell some craft goods that she makes. And she notices you and kind of hails out because, there's barbarians in Agrella. They're just not as common. And she hails out, "Hey, brother, where are you from?"
The depths of Davokar. Just
straight. Good then. I didn't think you were one of those, northern folk living on the plains in their wagons. I'm Yak. I'm from Davokar too, but no longer. I'm here. What brings you to Cauldron? You look good. She kind of winks. The goblins are behind you watching, like looking up at you like, I wonder what Master's going to do. I don't know. Let's watch.
Yeah, I kind of flex a little bit.
It's been a long time, Thalgar, I guess.
Oh no, he was just he just liked the compliment.
So you're looking for information, and she kind of nods and she goes, yeah. I know a woman named Tenid. She lives next door to my brother in the Cauldron. She kind of tells you, in the neighborhood of Barrymore. And yeah, she lives by me and my brother. We came here together, but she lives with them. She kind of gives you directions of where her brother lives and tells you that Tenid is, like a neighbor.
Yeah, it's later afternoon, so I think really Thalgar is ready to call the day.
He's tired.
Yeah, he's tired.
Your goblins look at you and says, is it meditation time?
It's meditation
meditate?
time. It's meditation time. Let's see if we can find some good sticks for you first.
All right. Thalgar needs to go meditate.
Yeah. And I take in the information I get from the lady, and Thalgar is never in a rush. He takes things as it comes. So yeah, I'm trying to find some sticks. Take the information. Okay. I think Thalgar has a rest because I have to leave for the train.
Right.
Station.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been a little off today. It's been a hectic
That's all right.
too. So
hopefully you had fun, and we'll see you next week. Thalgar will.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Newly minted acolytes back to Pine Island, perhaps into chickens, which they get a lot of fun out of, and start teaching
them a little knife so they can start engraving some carvings into the steps. Okay.
Well, have a great weekend.
Make them clean the room as well.
They have no idea what cleaning is really need for. They kind of look at each other. Is this necessary? Shh, just listen to them. We're learning. But cleaning? Have a great weekend.
Yes, thanks for the game. And see you next week.
See ya.
See you tomorrow?
I'm not here tomorrow. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So see you next week.
Yes, we do.
Vulgaris and Pike, first of all, you're asking questions. Daehniff is asking questions, and you're kind of in this loose group, but you draw some attention in the market, this kind of flea market area. You see also kids and spotters come running by, and you see them talk to a couple people, and they immediately break down their tents and grab up with their stuff and run out. Pike, and then you see this woman come going, damn it, and shake her head and go off in another direction in the flea market. And in front of her, you kind of catch these spotters that see her and then go running in advance of her. And it seems like they're telling other flea market sellers that she's coming for some reason. But you also notice that there's a couple of men and rougher men and women who seem to have, you've caught their eye, and they're keeping spots on you, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 are actually maybe following you loosely through the crowd. And Daehniff learns about Ordador, realizing that he is the son of a man named Barado and works in Pine Island at Meliano's sculpture place. And Thalgar learns where Tenid's apartment is. Vulgaris, you see these few that are following you, and you're almost positive they're related to some gang in the Cauldron. You've lived in Pine Island for quite some time, and you've been in and out of the Cauldron, and they just have that look. They don't really have a particular insignia. Don't notice any particular. Yeah, but you can just tell that they're local toughs, local authority, give or take, in that fashion. And you can kind of just see them trailing. You're the one who probably sees them and lets Pike know. So you kind of learned where Tenid lives, and Ordador works during the day, not necessarily where he lives and who his father is. What do you do with that information, or what would you plan? It's probably late afternoon, not that late. You have street food, really. Luckily, perhaps won't get sick.
So you think it's like 4 o'clock?
Yeah, roughly. The sun has a couple hours left to set. It's spring, almost summer, because of festival. So it's not going to be dark for a couple hours, or, 4 hours probably.
So why don't we go to that place of employment?
Yeah, I am having terrible luck not sending out in this city. So, I meet on Vulgaris, Goblin.
So you want to go back? Go ahead.
Are we still in the Cauldron, or?
Yeah, you're still in the Cauldron. You're right here at 24. Tenid's apartment is like over here in the Cauldron, or that's the directions you get. And Ordador and Meliano's sculpture garden are here.
Right at 20.
And 20. You're at 24, and Tenid's apartment is here, and Ordador's workplace is there.
I think we should try.
I was going to suggest the apartment first, so that we never have to come back to this shithole again.
This isn't where Pike parties, huh? It's much easier to walk naked home from Barado than it is Cauldron.
Yeah, I imagine it kind of like the social ladder is like the main bit of the peninsula, then Pine Island, then the Cauldron. So
yeah, the Cauldron is deep poverty.
Yeah, like the people living on Pine Island that don't have any money and are really poor, like they're still better off than Cauldron people that have money because they don't live in the Cauldron.
So you want to check out Tenid's? You want to go check out where Amalea lived, perhaps?
Yeah.
With Tenid. All right. So you go through the Cauldron, and it's not that far really, but the Cauldron it's still light out, so it's not that dangerous. Vulgaris, you recognize that you're being followed, or at least kept track of. You might get handed over to others who walk through the Cauldron after you've been asking some questions about Tenid and Ordador. And
do I notice like a change of our tail? Like almost like another corner, somebody else takes over the tail?
Yeah, maybe once. Like that's what it seems to be. Like you see 1 or 2 people, and they're obvious, relatively speaking. It's not like they're trying to not be seen by you or Thalgar. Right. I mean, Daehniff and Pike, they're out in the open. They kind of walk with a slight swagger, and they keep track of you. And if you even look at them, they probably nod like, yeah, we're here and we know you're there. And,
yeah,
it is what it is. Right.
Mike nods back at one of them, like, hey, nice seeing you. Not the finger guns, but the Agrella equivalent of. You
see, they either pass you off or they just accrue more watchers. Like maybe there's 2 of them coming out of the flea market, and one's on the right and one's on the left. You see them in and out, and then one stops to talk to another big tall dude, and they shake and kind of look at you, and then the two of them follow while the third one continues, and then maybe the third one meets a smaller woman who's kind of picking her fingers with a dagger, and they kind of nod and look over at the other two and nod, and then the four of them are following you. It's kind of like that. It's like open, that they're keeping track of you for whatever reason. You come to the tenement house that we're given directions, and we're told that Tenid lives on the second floor. Unlike Pine Island, or especially not the rest of Agrella, the tenement houses in the Cauldron are ramshackle, falling apart, leaky ceilings, rickety stairways. It's, people not living in the ground floor because they're wet. And if they are, then, they're squatting most of the time, and there's 10 to 15 living on the ground floor. And there's this outside stairwell, like it's been hammered into the side of this rickety building that goes up 3 floors. And there's this kind of askew wooden door on one side and a skew wooden door on another side. Like the stairway leads up to these 2 doors, and there's no numbers or anything. You go up the stairwell, and it kind of creaks a little bit and sways and is unsteady. And you probably think, well, maybe one of us at a time go up. You don't know if it can hold all your weight. And you come to the door of what you think is where Amalea lived with this woman called Tenid. What do you all do?
I look at the rest of my team, and if nobody else does anything,
Impulsive Pike kicks the door.
You kick the door open?
Yeah.
They're just knocked.
Yep.
All right. Pike.
Yeah, but there's knocking in the style.
Make a strong check. Okay, it doesn't matter. Pike, you kick the door. You literally kick it off the rotten door frame. Like, right. You kick it, and the door just rips off, like it's barely holding on, rips off and falls inward into the room. It's this kind of dark room with a single window and like a pair of pants that are hung up over the window to block out the light. So it's kind of dimly lit. It smells awful. Human excrement and just terrible. You hear this moan from this kind of straw bed in the corner, and this woman's voice kind of comes out. What? Who is it? What is it now?
It's not the joy birds.
You walk up to her. She's laying on the floor, like on like
God,
a
this
straw.
place is vetted.
Right. She's got matted hair. There's vomit, on the side. She's got her hand up here. She's like peering out at you, and she looks exceedingly sallow. And she goes, Yes, I'm Tenid. Are you here to kill me now? God, I wish I was dead.
Why would we be here to kill you?
I don't know. This seems like a good thing for me at the moment.
I mean, putting them out the misery, looking at it like this. Vulgaris, you tried to do medicine before. I think this one needs it.
I can try.
You could try, Vulgaris?
Yeah. Pike is going to go stand in the comparatively fresher air outside.
By the doorway? Sure.
Yeah.
Vulgaris, you could just make a chat. You could make are you going to lay on hands, or are you just going to do...
Lay on hands.
Oh, you could roll lay on hands.
I think it's a resolute test.
Okay. What does that look like? You put your hands on her. I would think you have to. And you can notice around her lips, she's got this green tinge, and her mouth is open. Her lips are cracked, but she's got this rim of green tinge, and her tongue is cracked, and she smells like henbane. She smells like that poison that
I would ask her how she got that around her lips.
She looks at you and she goes, I don't know. I was just with my roommate and we were celebrating, and I didn't think I would live through the night. Why? What's on my lips? Goblin?
It looks like it is a poison.
She goes,
4.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. she markedly perks up. She gets a little bit of color in her cheeks, and she kind of looks at you and she goes, "I didn't think I'd live through the night."
Oh.
So, Pike, make a vigilant test, and Daehniff and Vulgaris. Vulgaris kind of heals her, realizes that she's been poisoned. She tells you she barely thought she could survive the night. I didn't know what was happening. Daehniff, what do you ask Tenid?
I just look down and say, "You ready to take a trip?"
She looks at you and goes, "Are we going somewhere, pretty man? I'm feeling better."
I reach down and scoop her up and say, "Yep, we're going somewhere."
All right. She puts her arm around you and she's looking up at you. She's really weak. She smells terrible. Daehniff, she probably hasn't been able to leave her bed, or it's obvious she hasn't left her bed overnight. She lacked the strength, so she's peed herself, pooped herself. She just looks terrible, but she looks much better now that Vulgaris is healer, but she smells worse than her apartment, worse than the mucking that you've done with the goblins. And she's just kind of holding on to you. She looks up at you and she goes, "Well, don't hold it against me. I really didn't feel good last night. I thought I was going to die. Where are we going?"
"We're going to go see someone."
"Okay. I guess I can't."
If you're okay with it, we'll ask you some questions.
Righto. What kind of questions?
I don't know yet. It'll depend on the answers. But why don't we get you shipshape first?
She kind of opens and closes her eyes because that doesn't really compute. Questions based on answers. All right. That sounds okay. Pike, you're standing at the doorway and you're trying to get some fresh air as Daehniff and Vulgaris are dealing with Tenid, and Daehniff scoops up this wafer-thin woman in his arms who's wearing, light armor. She's still in her light armor, and she looks like she is passed out with her, knife belt, but she, in better days probably looked like a tough of some nature. You're looking down this rickety stairwell that you just climbed up to the room, and you see 6 thuggish looking people that are now standing at the bottom, probably, waiting, in a small loose circle, probably 4 men and 2 women, a couple big men, a couple of them are standing a little bit further away, are on the balls of their feet a little bit. Pike, as Daehniff carries Tenid towards the doorway, and Vulgaris is with them.
Evening, gents and ladies. What is it with this island? Every building I've been in, having shit on the floor.
They kind of look up at you because you're up on the landing, and this kind of wiry woman steps forward, and she's got this shorter rapier on one side. And she looks up at it and she goes, "Oi, what are you doing in the Cauldron? You seem to be asking lots of questions." And then Daehniff probably shows up and has Tenid in his arms, and he goes, "And what you doing with Tenid? Put her back. Put the
You're
gal
here to
back."
escort us, are you? Well, we appreciate your support.
Not really nice of them.
She kind of looks at
Tenid
it.
here's been.
Don't
She's
talk
been
over
poisoned.
people. Jeez. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tenid? Their roommate? Or close friend? I don't know the exact relation, but the other girl that lived here with them.
Amalea.
Yeah.
What about Amalea?
Yeah, some fuck murdered her.
Amalea was murdered. You hear Tenid's in Daehniff's arms and goes, "How did that happen? We were just together last night. We were celebrating."
You spent, you said you spent the last couple of nights throwing up and defecating yourself. I think she got a slightly stronger dose of whatever you got.
Definitely.
She looks at you. She looks at you and goes, "What did we get? She was with me."
Something you
You guys
don't.
drink the same brew?
Yeah, we were celebrating with a bit of stut before she went on her mission. Oh, and she kind of looks down the stairway up and shrugs fuck.
Well, I advise you toss whatever it was that the two of you are drinking because it's likely poisoned.
How's that?
We still have to get you somewhere.
She goes, I have the mugs in our room. I bought the mugs personally. I didn't poison my Amalea.
Maybe it was in something else. Maybe it was in food you ate. I don't know. But for now, your friends here are going to escort us to get you checked out. Aren't you, kind sirs and ladies?
Yeah, they look up at you because you're still up on the thing, and they go, "No, not really. What you're going to do is put Tenid back."
I've killed too many people
and
and seen too many people die this week. Let's avoid that.
She laughs.
Jesus.
And then
Just
she,
as he
whistles.
I fire brimstone.
You're just going to attack them? Oh my goodness. Vulgaris, you hear this whistle.
Well,
and she's about to say, "You sure you want to do that, gentlemen?" Vulgaris, Daehniff feels Tenid's grip on his arm tighten a little bit. This is bad.
Well, I hope that these thugs can see that Pike is like looking aghast at Daehniff the psychopath.
Vulgaris, you peek your head around. You just let loose.
I hesitate. I let them speak some more, but I'm ready.
Yeah, they look at you and say, "We'll take Tenid for you. What have you know?"
No, that's not necessary.
Oh, yes, it is, Goblin. It surely is. She is ours. We are hers. You are not. We take care of our own. Surely you can understand that.
She's close tied to one of ours. Amalea's mother's our neighbor.
Yes, we know that, but Amalea is ours.
Yeah, and Amalea died in our arms.
Right.
We have care in this. We want to know who murdered our friend's daughter.
She kind of looks up she goes, Tenid, dear. And Tenid kind of like squiggles down a little bit into Daehniff's arm. Yes, what happened, Tenid? Well, Amalea and I were celebrating. I bought her mugs of stut on the street. Then we drank them, and she went on her business, and I came home, and then I was awful sick. I guess it's not surprising that she's dead, but that was it. She met me right before she left. Daehniff, Vulgaris, and Pike, the 8 are now 10. You see a few more people coming around the corners, and the woman looks at you and says, "Right then, you will come with us. You can bring Tenid with you if you'd like." Vulgaris, what do you do?
I follow. If they're backing away from the staircase, as we come down, I don't do anything.
Okay, Pike.
Yeah, I was perfectly amicable to a peaceful resolution from the get-go.
Okay.
I just told him I didn't want to have to get violent.
You said, "I can kill you all too easily for you to dare threaten me."
I said nothing like that.
Very much paraphrase.
They bracket you. They let you come down the stairs. They allow Daehniff to carry Tenid, and the woman walks out in front of you, and then it's like a U shape around you. You got men and women on each side and behind you eventually, and you're walking through the Cauldron, and you're headed kind of south, in this south district through muddy streets and past broken down tenements, houses, others that are leaning on each other, and the worst of the Cauldron into kind of this southern area where there's a couple more warehouses and maybe struggling shops. And the woman brings you onto this kind of side street, and Vulgaris, Pike, and Daehniff. Go ahead.
I spend the walk over, like making small talk with some of the other thugs.
Right. What do you say?
It's just sort of casual conversation, like, you've been with your outfit long, no deal.
Yeah.
Pike doesn't go to the Cauldron if he can avoid it, because who would? But
you're trying to get information out of them, seeing if they're a little bit loose-lipped.
Not even that, just casual. You're currently working as a street thug. Yeah, I've done some street thug work. What kind of thuggery do you get up to in the Cauldron? Oh, that's nice. I normally do most of my stuff in whatever the.
So
Barado?
Your choice. You want to talk to a really big man who's maybe 2 heads taller than you, or a relatively short, skittish kind of woman, probably 19, 20.
Let's go with the big thug.
Okay. Make your persuasion test at advantage in favor.
I succeeded. Persuasion.
He kind of at first he doesn't say anything because he's lumbering along, but then he looks down at you. He's this massive kind of man, almost as big as an ogre, but he's just huge, and his eyes are a little bit dim, you realize, Pike, as you're talking to him, and he looks down at you and says, Hi, Galen. I've been working for Barado for some time. Muscle, mostly. What about you? You look like a spry, like you one of those up on the rooftops. And Pike looks up and he sees like 2 or 3 people trailing high when they reach their final destination. He looks up and he probably sees 1 or 2 or 3 people up high, up on either stairways and overlooks or actually on rooftops, looking kind of down when they come to the final kind of street. And the woman holds up their hand, and Pike, realizes that Barado, he tells you that he's worked for Barado, and it's the same name as Orador's father that you got in the flea market. And eventually the small, young, kind of skittish woman kicks him. Shut up, Galleon, shut up. And she looks at you like, no more questions, no more questions.
Hey, it ain't even questions, it's just conversation.
She points her knife at you. Quiet, I don't have to stick you prematurely, although that sounds good.
Hey,
Daehniff and...
Not going to talk about your tastes.
Daehniff and Vulgaris, you're probably closer. Daehniff, Tenid's got her arms, tucked into yours, and she kind of turns to you and goes, don't do anything stupid, Templar pretty man. This isn't the place to be stupid. Just don't tell him I said anything. I didn't say anything, right? I wasn't delirious. I didn't tell you nothing.
You're definitely out of it.
All right, then. You just came for whatever reason. I didn't tell you nothing. Daehniff, Vulgaris, and Pike, you come to this kind of narrow street, and there's a man standing on one step, seeming to collect payment from, looks like a shop owner of some nature. And I'll show you kind of what he looks like. He's got kind of a receding dark hairline. He's in his mid-40s, scraggly beard, but pretty well built. You look around him, and the woman who's guiding you kind of just holds up one hand for you to stop. And you're kind of behind her in a group. You got men and women on either side. And Pike has noticed that there's people with height, overlooking this scene. He collects this money from a shop owner. He also has 6 other men and women around him of the same sort of distinct look. And after he's collected his money, he kind of pats the older man on his shoulder, and he bows his head and, walks inside, and he, adds it to this growing pouch on his side and puts it inside. And he looks up and he notices it, gets this kind of crinkle on his nose, his forehead, and walks forward and does this to the woman. And she comes up and leans into him and whispers, and he's looking around you and shakes his head, and she steps aside, and he walks forward and he goes, who are you, and why are you in the cauldron? He probably says, my cauldron. Why are you in my cauldron?
Daehniff?
I'm friends. I'm regretting this day. That's very much what I'm doing in your cauldron.
Yeah, he shakes his head and goes, well, the day's yet young for regrets. Perhaps you won't have any after we're done. I've been told you know something of Amalea. Where is she? How is she? What has happened?
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, her mother's our neighbor, and at the one of the recent festivals, our tournament, Amalea had a bit of a fit and passed away. Local medics said she'd been poisoned, so she died basically on our streets. It'd be wrong to let your neighbor's daughter die in front of you and not look at what might have happened.
Well, that's terrible. Terrible it is. Did Amalea say anything?
But I look at Daehniff and the others and go, did she? I mean, you guys were closest.
I mean, she seemed to be having mostly a good time. She talked with her mom a little bit, but I didn't hear anything that would tell us who poisoned her.
He says, Amagas, retrieve Tenid from this good man. We will take care of her. She is one of ours. And you see this huge dude, like, tuck out of an alley. He's just giant. He takes this giant two-handed axe and puts it over his shoulder and lumbers forward towards Daehniff and puts out his arms. I will take her then from you.
Hey, neighbor.
Give me Tenid. What?
I say, okay, neighbor. And I give him Tenid. She was poisoned with whatever Amalea got poisoned with.
And Tenid looks at you and goes, Pretty Templar, I bought the stud. Why would anyone want to poison us? We're not all that important. I didn't poison her. She was my roommate.
I do not know. Maybe they were trying to poison just one of you, and the other one got caught in the event. Or I tell our new host what the name of the poison was.
Completely random idea. If you bought really cheap stuff, like earlier today, we bumped into some guys that had been hired by this. Actually, no, they weren't even paid to cause trouble. This Afido guy who was inciting people to go and Pike will do air quotes, clean up the trash by killing a bunch of people. Well, goblins, but still kind of people. Sorry, Vulgaris. Like,
Barado kind of
you
looks
guys
at you.
might not have even been the actual targets.
Barado says, it is unlikely they were targets at all, but Amalea, what has been done with her?
We had a service for her.
Right. And were any of her personal items taken?
I don't think so.
Honestly, don't
taken?
Remember? Like, it was proper rights at the Sun Temple on Pine Isle. If she's got any stuff that she had with her, it's probably still with her mom.
Well, we have sent people to talk to her mother. They might be returning soon. Perhaps we wait for them.
Okay. I appreciate this is probably an awful place to say things like this, but again, you care about your streets, I care about my streets. Your people aren't going there to do trouble.
Oh, of course not. It's just that Amalea had something of ours that we need back. Perchance you have it.
Perchance. I
Was
have
it a
no
weapon?
idea what it might be. Like, yeah. Was she meant to have it? What are you looking for, man?
He kind of looks at the others. He shrugs. He makes a decision. He goes, well, Amalea was one of my messengers, and messengers carry messages. You wouldn't happen to have the message, would you? It is important to my business associates.
This is a purely out of character statement I am asking the rest of the table, Gene. It is not for your NPC's ears.
Sure.
Are we going, like, I am assuming he's on about that message about the dead drop from the weird coded place names that meant nothing to us. Did we just give that over? Because, like, it means nada to Pike. We had no idea where any of this stuff was. And
Who
I
picked up
understand
the paper?
Vulgaris picked it up.
Vulgaris share the contents of the paper with the rest of us?
Yeah,
I believe
think
so. Yeah, you all read it.
Okay.
We read it.
Our flash it up again. I
Yes,
guess.
I did.
No, I just wanted to.
I haven't said anything in this conversation.
I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
you haven't. Goblin hiding at the back.
Yeah, Pike's gonna tell the man that she had some letter that was on about pick up from some coded place name.
He kind of folds up his hand, like, you read the letter. Then there's a little bit of change of tone, Pike, when you say it's a dead drop.
I kick him in the ankle.
I look at the
see, like,
goblin and then kick him back and go, you picked the thing up.
After he says that, I kick him again.
Who has the message now, then? Perhaps we could come to some agreement.
Which one of us has it?
I don't know who has it.
I know who has it. The one that hasn't been talking.
Okay, yeah, I'll kick Vulgaris again for kicking me and like start patting his pockets and be like, where the fuck have you put this thing?
Daehniff,
Hand it over.
do you say anything as Barado takes a keen interest in this letter? You can feel he probably maybe even takes half a step forward. Hands loosely go to his side. You see the rest of his entourage perk up. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot.
I just say my associate found the letter. When the guards came, they were kind of dicks, so we didn't mention the letter.
Wow, good on you then.
Yeah.
But
The name's in. Like, we only looked at it to see if there was any information about leads on what happened to Amalea. Like, the terms mean nothing to us, and from the general vibes of your place here, I kind of feel like I don't want to know where anything mentioned in this letter is. Like, I'll start holding it out towards him and be like, because it kind of feels like the less I have to do with this, the safer I am.
This is out of character, but you're about 5 feet into your 6 foot grave at this point, digging your own grave.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving away the shovel.
his impulsivity is kicking in. Barado looks at you and goes, well, we could come to an agreement. You hand over the message.
Dude,
forget what you read.
My arm is very much outstretched.
All right. He takes it from you, Pike.
He doesn't. No, I have it.
You have it, Vulgaris.
I thought I said I was patting you down to like get the.
Well, yeah. Then if you were, then I backed off.
Right, Vulgaris. He knows you have it, or he knows you have it now because Pike's been rambling off about it. What does Vulgaris do?
He's slowly backing up.
Slowly backing up.
Yep.
You are encircled.
Yep.
What's his intent?
I cast a spell.
What spell is that, Vulgaris?
Nature's Embrace.
What does it do?
Here, I'll post it.
It's like the hide in the ground.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Spell.
he drops in.
So that's a, what do I have to make?
It is
Resolute.
Just a resolute check. It's going to be obvious. So here's what will happen, Vulgaris. It's obvious you're casting a spell of some nature. Barado isn't stupid. This is his turf. All of Cauldron is his turf. And a failure will be met with bad outcome.
Combat.
Right. Immediate response, because Barado is, the leader out there, and whatever they're not smart enough to know what Vulgaris is doing, only that he's doing something. Right. And so they will get a reaction on Vulgaris if he fails. I think it's reasonable you can cast it without them, as you're backing up and Pike is digging a hole and giving the shovel. So what do they see?
I'm trying to think.
So you just sink. You just sink down into the...
Yeah, that's what it says. So,
right.
You know what? I would probably do it dramatically and probably it looks like I dive into the friggin', like you would dive into a pool.
Right. You go into the ground. All right. I am going to put something on a map. Actually, we'll go here. I'm going to put you all on a map. And what we will probably do is end it there for today as Vulgaris dives into the muck of the cauldron. And he essentially sinks, disappears in. I don't think either of you have ever seen Vulgaris do this, but he, jumps into the firmament of what the cauldron is. You see Barado's head track him, and there's very little emotion on it. And you see his mouth get very thin, and he looks up at Pike and says, "Regrets, Pike." And then mayhem will ensue, and we'll end it there for today. Daehniff, would you do anything as this is happening and you're turning over, as you see Vulgaris jump into the ground?
No, I'm trying to just say, hey, whoa. We don't know what the hell that was.
Right, okay. We're ended there as Vulgaris, leaves you out on a broken limb over a gator-infested swamp. I don't know if Daehniff or Pike would have an idea of what that spell does, because neither of them necessarily have the skill. And so they wouldn't necessarily know that Vulgaris is just... Because you don't travel through the space, right?
No, you need master level to be
Yeah,
able to
I think
exit
eventually you can.
anywhere else.
Yeah. So I think that you just disappear into the ground, Vulgaris, but no one really knows that. No one really knows that you can't. You're just there.
Right.
Something may occur, but they think you've just absconded with the message and somehow used some sort of magic to run. And we're ended there for today. Any questions for me?
No. Though I do have a question for Joe. What level Nature Embrace do you have?
It doesn't
Novice.
matter what level I have.
It does matter. Is the adept
Oh, we know.
Yeah, I think-
We're figuring that out. You're figuring
I
that
think-
out next.
Yeah. With novice, you have to actually focus on staying underground.
Yeah, we'll see how it flows. You have no idea because some of you have master level skills like polearm mastery, Valgar.
Well, I mean, remember, this is the lower XP group, so it's we're a little more limited than the Friday group.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I had fun. Hopefully, you all had fun. You guys are a grisly group, though, Daehniff.
I mean, cutting bodies up.
Hey, I'm just pragmatic.
Right.
No body, no crime.
Prios has got a dark side of the sun.